Hi, and welcome to English 3 Semester 1 Activity 2.20. In this activity, which is called American Rhetoric Historical Context, we're going to be analyzing the rhetorical context of a seminal U.S. speech and adapting the speech for a particular rhetorical context. Let's get started. So let's look at the index. These are the things that we're going to do as we are working on this activity. We're going to start off by previewing the activity, learning about rhetorical context, doing the as you read, and then we're going to be reading a piece, making observations about the piece, returning to the text, working from the text, and drafting the embedded assessment. So to preview, in this activity, you will read a seminal speech given by President Abraham Lincoln and analyze its rhetorical context using the soapstone strategy. So, for the rhetorical context, like historical context, the rhetorical context of a speech is an important part of analyzing the ideas and evaluating the reasoning of the speaker. The reading strategy soapstone is a familiar strategy that can help you analyze a speech. So we're going to go over that strategy in a little bit more detail just in case it's not as familiar as we would like to think. So as you read the piece, I'm going to be linking the piece on in the notes section on the side of this presentation. Obviously, you won't be able to underline since you're using a computer. So on a separate sheet of paper, you might want to jot down particular notes involving the speaker, occasion, meaning like why is he making this speech? What's the occasion? The audience, the purpose, which also kind of goes back to why, the subject, and the tone. Then we're also going to be identifying unknown words and phrases. Try to determine the meaning of those words by using context clues, word parts, or a dictionary. So these are the things that you're going to want to focus on while you're reading. I recommend jotting them down just so that you can have a visual clue, or a visual cue, to remind you what you're supposed to be focusing on during your reading. Okay. At this point, you should have read the speech. If you have not read the speech yet, pause the video, go back a few minutes, and find that link that I put in the notes section in order to get the speech, read it, and then come back. Now that you've read the speech, let's answer these two questions to begin with. So the first one is, what emotional tone does Lincoln strike in his speech? Meaning, what emotion is he trying to portray as he's making this speech? How might Lincoln's audience have reacted given the context? So I want you to think about the context of Lincoln giving this speech. He's trying to end Civil War. He's trying to end slavery. So how do you think his audience might have reacted knowing that and keeping that in mind? All right. Returning to the text. So you're going to want to have the speech pulled up so that you can pull answers directly from the speech to use as text evidence to support your responses. So write any additional questions you have about the text on a separate sheet of paper. 1. Find one example of anaphora in paragraph 2 and one in paragraph 3. How does the rhetorical device contribute to the power of speech? Now let's go over anaphora really quickly, just in case you're not as familiar with that term as you would like to be. So, anaphora is a literary device that occurs when you are repeating the beginning of a phrase in order to use emphasis. So look in paragraphs 2 and 3 for an example of Lincoln using a repeating beginning of the phrase to emphasize the speech. Then, once you find at least one example in each paragraph, answer the question, how does the rhetorical device contribute to the power of the speech? And the rhetorical device that they're referring to is anaphora. 2. What is the effect of Lincoln telling the audience little that is new could be presented while giving a speech about the state of the country? So by state of the country, we mean how the country is doing at that moment. The state of the country, the State of the Union, refers to, it's kind of a snapshot of how the country is doing at that moment in time. So we're going to be trying to understand the effect of Lincoln telling the audience that little is new that could be presented, meaning everybody already knows what's going on. There's very little I could say that's new that I could present to you. So what is the effect of him telling the audience that? 3, summarize how Lincoln describes the two sides are similar. What rhetorical device does he use to warn against laying blame? Why would or wouldn't it be an effective appeal to his audience? So think about how it could be useful to avoid assigning blame to one party or the other. How might that help his audience kind of go along with his side? All right. 4, how might Lincoln's use of language that uses religious reasoning shape his audience's understanding of his call to end the Civil War? So think about why him referring to his religious reasoning can kind of help his audience understand why he's trying to call it to end the Civil War. 5, who is Abraham Lincoln's intended audience? Like, who is he talking to? How does Lincoln anticipate his audience's needs and expectations? So by that, it means how does he predict what his audience is going to think or feel about his speech, and how does he anticipate that by including things in his speech to that address those needs and expectations? And then 6, based on the details you noticed, what specific language does Lincoln use to invoke emotions in his audience? So find words that show that he's trying to cause his audience to feel some type of way. Okay, so now we're going to go back to the speech and use the soapstone strategy to analyze it. So to start off with, what do you know about the speaker? What do you know about Abraham Lincoln? The occasion. What are the circumstances surrounding this speech? Why did he give this speech? Audience. Who is the target audience? Who is he speaking to? Purpose. Why did the speaker give this speech? Subject. What is the topic of the speech? What is he talking about? And tone. What is the author's tone or attitude in this speech? All right. So the use of parallel structure has a powerful effect on written and spoken message. Identify the examples of parallelism at work in the speech. Practice reading the paragraph as you believe it would be spoken, using parallel structure to guide your emphasis and inflection. So parallel structure refers to when sentences, it's kind of like anaphora. It's when sentences have the same kind of structure in multiple lines. All right, last but not least, drafting EA2. Think of an issue that means a lot to you, where you feel a change is warranted, something in society that you feel needs to change. Brainstorm ideas for a speech that you could give on the topic to the appropriate audience to convey your strongest message. Be sure to identify your role as the speaker in this piece, a concerned citizen, a student, etc. Convey the occasion that informs your writing, the circumstances prompting this piece. Identify your audience, whom you are addressing. Define your purpose, what you want to accomplish. Choose your subject, the topic of your essay, and establish your tone, your attitude toward the issue and the opposition. All right, and that's it. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.